In Acts 20 and verse 20, the Apostle Paul told the elders at Ephesus that he had taught them publicly and from house to house. The question that I want us to consider today is, how was this public teaching done? Well, there's much said in the Bible about how Jesus taught, how the apostles taught, and how we are to teach in the church today. Now, mind you, we're talking about teaching in the public assembly of the church. But what do we mean when we say the assembly? Well, the assembly is when the people are called together or invited to come together for the express purpose of worshiping God, of rendering a spiritual service to God. Now, whenever we think about the assembly, we think about certain things taking place, things such as the Lord's Supper being observed, singing to God, singing praises to Him, offering prayers to God, studying God's Word, having it proclaimed to us by those who are teaching God's Word, laying by in store, having a contribution for the work of the church. Now, we recognize that when the church comes together, there are two groups of people that come to those assemblies. There are those who are members of the church, those who are Christians, and there are those who are visiting those assemblies. And so what we need to consider is when we come together into our worship assemblies, generally in our day and time and in our culture, of course, we come together upon the Lord's Day. But oftentimes we will come together multiple times on the Lord's Day, and then we may also gather at different times during the week. Generally, we'll come together sometime midweek, usually on Wednesday nights. We'll come together and we will have a period of Bible study. I know some religious groups, rather than having a Bible study, they'll have an additional worship service on Wednesday evenings. And so what does God's Word tell us about how teaching is to be done in those public assemblies? Well, mainly we're going to be looking at a passage from 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verses 23 through 40. And in these verses, the Apostle Paul gives 3 rules for the church concerning what to do when the church is come together or assembles in one place. Well, the first rule, he addresses those in the first century who had the ability to speak in other languages. This miraculous gift, which was only able to be bestowed by the laying on of the apostles' hands. Notice, in verses 19 through 28, Paul says that those who had that ability were not to use that gift if those assembled in that place could not understand that language. Paul said, "Yet in the church, I had rather speak 5 words with my understanding, that by my voice I might teach others also, than 10,000 words in an unknown tongue." And the reason for this is because when we come together as the church, we are coming together to be edified, to be taught and uplifted by what is being said. And we need to recognize as well that when we come into the assembly, if we have visitors who are there, if we have those who are young, we have those who are new Christians, then they are striving to learn many things as well. And so they need to be able to understand the things that are being said. But also, if the teacher does not speak the language of those who assemble, then Paul says that there must be someone there to interpret. And he said the reason for this is because all things are to be done unto edifying, verses 23 through 27. And so, without an interpreter, the teacher was told that they could not teach in that language. We're told, let him keep silence in the church. This is not a suggestion. This is a command. But secondly, we see that there are certain rules that are extended to those who are teaching in those assemblies. Certainly in 1 Corinthians, this could be the apostles, it could be early elders in the church, evangelists, it could be prophets. But one of the things that Paul mentions is the fact that they are not to all speak at once. They are each to take their turn, one by one. The teachers not speaking must keep silent and wait their turn. And the reason for this, according to chapter 14, verses 29 through 32, is that all may learn. And we find that these rules apply to all the churches of the saints. It was not conditional just upon that congregation there at Corinth. Friends, I hope that you will consider these things that we've discussed today and that you'll join us again tomorrow as we continue looking at this subject of the appropriate way for teaching to take place in the public assembly. I hope that God blesses you today with a wonderful day.